So this video is covering how I produce animated doors for rolling stock, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to step you through some different versions, some early versions of, this is in fact the Liverpool Overhead Railway motor carriage, which I made early in the year. Now the first thing is that you don't need to worry about at all is because that's the bogie which I made quite separately, and it's just positioned there so that I make sure I've got everything checked here. But this should be a fairly familiar scene from my first part of my starting from scratch series, and I'm going to list this one as number 4, although the request has come from someone else. And so it should be fairly familiar to you to see these diagrams, these plans which I brought in to, this is version by very first version of modelling the motor car, so it's my version 1.1, it's car number 42 as you can see there. And on this there's no doors, but what you can see is that I've got the tumble home here next to the driving compartment, which was on that side so that they could look back down through the platform. And you can see that I've used these diagrams all around the model. Okay, so that was version 1.1, just the outline. This really picks up on what I did in that previous short video about starting from scratch, and it shows you how far I got in version 1 more or less. So let's bring up version 2. No, we don't want to save it, thank you. So here we are, these are all, and the actual versions are right down the end here. 1.2 and then 1.3, this is back on the 23 days later. Let's have a look at that, see what difference we've got here. Well, here what I've done is, although it's still in those sort of lollipop colours of the, these aren't the colours of course of the rolling stock, these are untextures. What I've done here is, by this stage, is I've added the doors in. You can see those are separate. If I go into wireframe, you can see they're now added as separate meshes. There's a lot of separate meshes here, all coming together to make that motor car. And you can see I've added in the attachment points for the bogies, which is why the bogie was there in version 1.1 and 1.2. I always make 2 copies of these. So let's go into, so we've got the doors in, nothing's animated, nothing's separated yet. So let's open up the next increment, 2.1. It's pretty arbitrary, the increments. It's just as I make them. So here I've got them all textured into the colours. I brought the texture in and I've got some glazing in. The doors are glazed, the handles are on. You can see the panelling, the wood panelling has been added, but we've still got just basically a collection of meshes, and but more detail added in. I've refined, I've got the tumble homes on both sides. So that's 2.1. See what else we've got. Went too far. 2.1, 2.3 will be the next increment because 2.1 and 2.2 are the same. So a fortnight later, let's have a look, see where we are. Okay, let's go over here and just pull that up. Well, you can see there's quite a lot has happened. First of all, I brought in the logo, the crest of the Liverpool Overhead Railway, and all the seating is now in, and the attachment points for all of the passengers, and the limits back and front, and some information, some detail in the driving section, and what else? And there's ventilators on the roof. So all in all, that's coming on pretty well. So what I did is I split the previous version into 2 things. I split it into this by deleting the doors from it, but with a copy of that previous version. Let's just go back to that previous version. Let's give it a moment to load. There we are. So what I've done is I've copied this version into, it becomes both my 2.3, version 2.3, and also I copied it into another file which I called doors, something inventive like that, motor car 39 doors, where are we? Or let's have a look at left and right. So I don't want those. I want, here we are, motor car doors. Before I go, so on the 1st of April. So it's this file with everything deleted apart from the doors, and what I've done is I've added one there, a dummy which I call BR main. I always tend to do that, and that's that is at XYZ000. And then looking down, and it's the down view which is crucial. You must have top there, looking there it is. Okay, so now I know I've got doors on this side, and for each door what I've done on more or less where the hinge is, I've added a separate dummy, and this is door left. Even though it's on the right hand side, you have to imagine that you are standing. Oops, that doesn't do it in this, does it? You've got to imagine that you're standing here, we're looking down on the top of your head, and you're looking this way. You're looking down the page. This is always crucial with the animation. And then each of these is animated, and then each one is separately linked to BR main. So if we look at the subtree, we've got BR main, and each of the doors, dummies, which are animated dummies, and then all of the meshes for one door. If I select that, that's all the meshes there, and they're all linked to that one dummy. So let's see if they work. I think they do. Whee! There they go. And if I just go to the end and go back one, so that's about what's that? About 135 degrees, something like that. I suppose I might even be able to discover it here. 120 degrees. There you go. Don't want to muck about with it. And that seems to me the correct. I mean, you can have doors that only open 90 degrees, but I always think they open a bit more than that. And so looking at it there, what we've got is a completely separate mesh. Let's have a look at them opening. There they go. Now what I'll then do, this is my doors file, I will then save this and then copy it again, and I will call it doors left. So let's have a look. Motor car doors. No, we're not going to change anything, thank you. Motor car doors left. Let's have a look at those. That was a fortnight later. I finally got round to doing this. Over a fortnight later. And here you can see that actually the reason why I did that is because this is for another. I didn't need all of them to be animated. I didn't realise at the time, but I've added in the single little plane. This relates to my previous video. There's a little plane just with the class number on, and that one there has got the word driver on, and I didn't need that to open and close because the driver's door doesn't open and close when you go through stations. And on the inside I've added a plane, and this is my point about adding these planes. Make sure we've got texture correction on. Yeah, there we go. Actually the resolution in Gmax isn't quite as good as we're getting trains. It's an offence to enter or leave trains whilst in motion. Offenders are liable to prosecution. That's an actual sign from the Liverpool Overhead Railway. So I was able to find that on a photograph, excuse me, trim it down, put it into a texture, and add it to the doors, inside of the doors. So the actual poly count on these altogether is only 500. Look. So it gives you an idea. You can put in quite a bit of information without, quite a bit of detail without busting the sort of limit. And you can see here that this is just one side only. There it is, animated. And that's because they're going to be the doors on the left hand side of the carriages. So what we want is when the motor car comes into the station on the Liverpool Overhead, the doors facing the platform are triggered to open. That's the way trains works. So we don't want the doors on the other side triggered, so we have to make two separate meshes. One is doors left, and the other one is, well, I'm sure you probably worked out what the other one is. No, we're not going to save it, but just to show you that the where are we? Oh dear. There it is, doors right. I mean, what a surprise. and there they are. And of course, because they're doors right, you know, it's the guards at the other end. And there we are, we've got the notices on. So basically those two rather, doors left and right, are each just copies, and then you delete what you don't need of the generic doors. And once you've got the generic doors, or in this case for me, I'm making different motor carriages or trailer carriages. Once I've got, that's why I left them like this and added the class number and the notices, etc., and the driver or guard. Once you've got that, that's the, as it were, the pro forma for your carriage doors for all of your rolling stock, if it's all in the same sort of grouping. So let's have a look at some carriage doors which were for actual, here we are, the doors left for motor car number 39. I forget what that was now, but you can see, well, it's very similar to what I've just shown you. So that was easy. So that was obviously the first one that I did. See if I can find something a bit more different. Probably not, but motor car doors 43. Some of them you can use the same, you know, if you're doing a fleet of different vehicles. Like on my, no, it's much the same, isn't it? There isn't a lot of difference in these. It's just it's got vents on that, those doors there. Look, you can see there's air vents. Okay, so once you've done that, then if we go into trains, and if I go into my break down my folders, these are just the ones that I've done for Tane. LOR motor carriage, well that's number 43, so let's have a look in there. So this is the what gets made up into the CDP file, and it's in the config that you deal with your doors. So have a look in the config, and what we want to do, well, we can put the sound scripts in for doors open and close, that's fine, and it's in the mesh table. So the default, there's our mesh, that's our carriage body. If we look in the folder, get the type right, these are unnecessary, I can delete those, don't need the GMWs. So you can see here I've got the main mesh, I've got the left hand doors, I've got the right hand doors, I've got the night, I've got the seats, and I've got the shadow, all as different mesh files. And over here, let's just try and drag that over a bit so it makes a bit of sense. You can see here default mesh, and then under effects, now I thought that's where I put the doors, but I didn't, so Chris, you'll have to forgive me, I got that wrong. This is how you should do them. So you've got the default there, that's your main body of the mesh, and then and all the way back, and then that's your right hand passenger doors. There's the mesh, there it is, door right, that's that one there, and then you need to put in the animation file, the KIN kinetic door right. So you need to export the doors and the animation, and it's attached to my attachment point A doors, which is an attachment point within this body here, and it's also, that is at XYZ equals 0, 0, 0. So the dummy, this dummy here, the BR main dummy at 0, 0, 0, there it is, BR main, there's the location along the bottom there. And if I go into, let's have a look at this one. No, we don't want to save it. 2.3, where are we? This is the one with all the attachment points in. Remember all the seating and everything. Let's just drag it about here. Oh, sorry, that's the, see, and also I've added in Liverpool Overhead Railway there. This is it here. There we are, look, A dot doors. It doesn't matter that it's way down like that, you know, I found it's perfectly okay. So anyway, just going back to our config, so the whole of the carriage is made up of the collection of meshes, dear me, the collection of meshes that you exported for the body, the main part of the carriage, and then ditto for the doors right and their animation file, and their doors left there, And in fact, because the body was getting a bit big, I actually separated the seats out and made them as a separate mesh. Here we are, look, over here, just to keep the poly count under control, because we've got 350 there. The actual carriage body itself is 1091, and on my PC, if it's much bigger than that, I get all sorts of corrupt, you know, within trains it sort of blows its brains. Something I've just got used to, but it doesn't make any difference, because this is where the whole carriage is assembled together to create the finished job. Because there's the night mode, and there's the shadow, and then this is where the bogies are brought in, and this down here is the passenger queue, where all those attachment points that you've used for your passengers, that's where they're all put in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else on this that is relevant. Don't think so. I think that's about all as far as making the doors are concerned. And the great thing is that you make the whole carriage first, and then you build into it all of this animation and workings to finish off the final job, and hopefully it goes into trains first time. I don't think I've ever had one that goes into trains first time. There's always something I've done wrong, forgotten, messed up. So if that's what happens to you, well, you're not alone. That's what happens to me as well. So I hope that's explained how to both model and to then split up those models and separate them, so there's separate meshes, which you then is all brought together in the config text file at the end when you're about to export into trains. I think I had some fun with it. I'm just crossing my mind now. I had quite a lot of fun doing the cab controls. Yeah, that's an early version. I improved on that. And there we are. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been helpful, and if it has, please leave me a nice comment. Please perhaps give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel.